Welcome back to the Ekkocast. I am here with one of, we'll get to it in the future and see if he is, but at the very least, one of the strongest Echo athletes to grace this platform. Now, Marc, I want to get right into things. I don't want to waste any time. I just want to know for you, what was this catalyst, the start of your lifting journey? Because, obviously you have a lot of talents, but, what was the start of lifting itself?
Okay, so this dude wanted to burp in my face when I was 15 years old. He was a football player. I just remember he stunk really bad. I don't know what he was doing, but I think he wanted to impress everybody else, so he decided to kind of burp in my face. Like, he would burp, and then he would be blow out his little bad breath at me, and then I thought he was the strongest person because he would bench 205. But it doesn't count when you're 240 pounds and you have flubber just going around everywhere. I thought he was the strongest dude ever. And I thought, what's so great about this lifting thing anyway? What's so cool about it? Because my start point, I was a skinny, fat video game Mountain Dew bod. You know what I'm talking about, right? Just
Yeah.
You'd eat pizza while playing the Xbox 360. See, that was our generation, right? Xbox 360 was our generation. And, I said, what's so cool about this thing? And then I tried out the bench press. I said, and I would get a little pump on my chest. I said, this is kind of fun. I think I like it.
Yep.
And then just the feeling of just pushing my limits and then doing another rep. And, man, I can go heavier. It was just fun, just pushing myself and progressively getting better, doing a little bit more pull-ups. I'm like, this feels very empowering. I think I love doing this.
So you started enjoying it almost immediately when you got into
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I looked at myself, I said, I'm probably not going to gain any muscle because, when you're skinny, fat, and you see your very start point, I said, yeah, it's not going to happen. But I just fell in love with the process of being a progressively physically stronger version of yourself. It's addicting. It gives you a dopamine rush.
And if you have not seen any of Marc's content before, when he says getting stronger, he means it. This guy can move some weight. Every time I come across one of his videos and I'm starting to feel good about what I've done in the gym, I just think, man, there's levels to this game. There is levels to this game. So I want to know from your perspective, because I've seen people comment on the fact that they don't believe that you were natural. When you say you were natural, you're obviously enhanced now.
Yeah.
But you had an incredibly impressive physique as a natural. What goes through your mind when people accuse you of that physique not being natural, even at that point? What is it that you what do you end up sorry, I lost my train of thought. What do you does it actually upset you, or is it something where you're like, you know what, that's kind of cool, they're complimenting what I've done previously?
It's a compliment.
Okay.
I mean, it gets kind of annoying, okay, this is kind of old news, but it's a compliment, and it's you have to look deeper into why a person is getting upset with that sort of thing. Okay, it's definitely a sort of insecurity. They start to compare themselves to you, but if you look so good, right, and you haven't touched anything, and if you look so good that they're getting so angry, you got to think about it that way. That means you look great. You look amazing.
That's fair. No, I remember when I saw, because people would ask me, they'd say, oh, was he actually natural when he says he... I'm like, you know what? I've talked with Marc a billion times. I've seen the way that he lifts. I've seen the way that he goes about things. And yeah, I believe it. And when I saw what happened when you did go enhanced, the difference in the size that you put on during that time, I thought, you know what? Either he was not taking much and then took a lot more, or in my opinion, definitely a natural to enhanced transformation. So what was kind of the deciding factor for you that made it so that you were like, okay, I've been natural. You've been natural for what, 10 years?
Over 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. What was it that made you say, you know what? Let's see where we can go with this.
It's just the reality of things, because people want to see. They don't want to see great. They want to see what the hell is this, right? And when it comes to competing and doing, getting into higher levels, they want to see what the hell is this.
Right.
They don't want to see this looks great. They want to. It's just, I guess, conforming to what the media wants to see, right? And it's being realistic. If you're going against people who have great genetics, great work ethic, and take enhancements, you got to level the playing field here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that I think people don't realize. I shouldn't say think. It's very, very prevalent if you go to a comment section of somebody who's, huge who's on gear, you'll see in the comments, oh, well, I'd look like that too if I took gear. I'd look like that too if this. And what they don't realize is a lot of the monsters that they're looking at, if not all of the monsters that they're looking at, had great genetics to begin with, looked great as naturals, and then just used the enhancements to take their physique to that freak factor level.
Yes.
So no, it's I remember seeing you in person for the first time, and I couldn't help. I just kept looking at the chest. I was like, that's a lot of cleavage right there.
Yeah.
Something you're not necessarily used to seeing. But that leads me to another question that I wanted to ask you, because a lot of things that you see with your platform, it's telling people to not overthink their training.
Yes.
Telling them, talking about analysis paralysis, not actually going in and just putting in the work. And I love watching your training videos because it's like you're still in control of the weight, right? I think a lot of times what happens is when people hear that, they think, oh, so you're just not doing anything properly. You're just like going in and doing whatever. But you can see that you're thinking through the movements, that you're making sure to keep things under control. I saw an interesting one recently where people were challenging you on things like the upper pecs working when you're doing your presses and stuff like that. And you're like, dude, like my chest is bigger than your entire bloodline. Mm-hmm. And I find it really fun to watch people like yourself, because you are smart and you understand the concepts. But even through all that, you're not just saying, okay, here's the brand new shiny object, let me go chase that, when you understand what has worked continuously over time. So I wanted to ask, is there anything in your current training where you're like, you know what, like I've been working on something that is different than what I've been doing previously, or is it just a matter of building off of what you've done for a long time?
I think, kind of managing things like volume and recovery.
Okay.
And there's certain aspects of my physique that definitely need a little bit more growth for sure, like my adductors, right? I'm experimenting a little bit more by, putting my pride to the side and not doing things that are a little bit more quad dominant, because I would look a little deeper. I'd say, okay, what's missing? Okay, my adductors. Okay, how would we grow and approach this from bringing this up? And biasing being a little bit more specific, right? Because again, when you have more of a solid base, you have to now you can be a little bit more specific with your approach. So I'm looking at overall volume. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm working my adductors as well on my upper body oriented days.
Nice.
So that it doesn't go ahead and affect my upper body training at the same time, because it's not, and adductors at the same time. Although it is boring, right? Do you enjoy training adductors?
It's like, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Who's to say that like you can't kind of mess around and experiment and say, I can work this on my upper body before my actual upper body lifts, and let's see how this goes. So that's a little bit more of a different approach than what I would usually do, because the traditional way of doing things, right, is you put it on a leg day. You might leave it at the end of the workout or at the start. But I'm saying, okay, what if I be a little bit more frequent here and train it on my upper body days as well, and give it adequate rest and see how my performance goes over time, and see how it translates over.
Yeah, no, I love that. And if you didn't notice there, when he talked about how he was trying to bring up his adductors, first thing he mentioned was putting it earlier in his session on a day where he can just put some focus towards it. And I think what happens is a lot of times when people see people who are quote unquote meatheads, they end up thinking that just means that the person has not thought through anything about their training, when a lot of times they're thinking about their training all the time, because it's the thing that matters to them the most. And so when it comes to your training and the training of your clients, your programming, it's how much do you think that you would say that you put into it, where it's like, okay, this is specific to them, versus just a kind of like a general, hey, just go lift and get strong?
No, so I look at the person's lifestyle, right? If a person is a desk worker, then I can account to the fact that they could probably have a little bit more volume, right? And then then I go ahead and see, because science is literally messing around and finding out.
Yeah,
that's exactly how we got here in the first place, by messing around and finding out. Oh, this didn't work. Record down the data. Okay, this didn't really work, did it? So if I have a person that is like an office worker, okay, I don't move that much outside of the gym. I kind of sit behind a desk. I say, you know what, maybe, but he also says, I kind of want to go to the gym a little bit more often. Let's go ahead and mess around with a 5-day workout split, and let's have a set amount of working sets. 2 sounds reasonable. If it sounds reasonable, we see, okay, we have an established food plan. This is the amount of food he's eating. This is the amount of volume he's doing with these given exercises. Let's go ahead and see how he does over time.
Nice.
And then I start looking at the data.
Yeah. No, and data is one of those things where I always tell whenever I'm working with a client, they're like, "Oh, should I be recording this?" I'm like, "Yes." Like, if you asked me about it, then record it.
Yes.
There's no reason why you wouldn't. Why would I not want more data? Because you're always looking to see what adjustments you can make based on the responses that you're getting.
Exactly that. And then if I see, is this person getting progressively stronger? And if their goal is leaning out, is this person leaning out? And is his performance increasing over time? If I see those things happening as a pattern, then things are working accordingly.
Right. Yeah. And then when you get into the minutia, yeah, you can adjust things as needed. But at the end of the day, if a person takes their, and I know this could be controversial, I'm saying bench press, but if a person takes their bench press from 315 to 405, do we really think there's going to be no growth going alongside
Yeah,
of that?
it's going to work.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time we'll have people that will be taking and saying, how can we take and make this better than what it is already? But the problem is, once you start dealing with very small percentage points of better, honestly, I would say in a lot of cases, trying to worry about the next best, brightest thing will actually hinder your growth more than
Yes.
anything else. Only because of the fact that, let's say an exercise is 1% better in terms of stimulus, but you put that into your program for like 6 to 8 weeks before you find the next exercise. You never actually gave yourself the ability to progress upon that exercise the way you would want to in order to continue getting a better and better stimulus, or I should say a similar stimulus. But it's I've loved that when I've watched your platform over the years, I saw you lifting like 3 years ago, and when I see you lifting now, I'm like, oh, he's stronger than he was 3 years ago. It's like same movement, but you continue to progress upon it.
Yes.
Do you do anything in terms of, are you a like a person who tries to leave RIR at times, or would you say that you just take everything to its fullest extent each time you go in?
I would absolutely leave RIR at times. And it makes sense. For example, if I'm doing a stiff-legged deadlift, right, I do think it's very smart to leave a few reps left in the tank because it gets to the point where, sure, you can move the weight, but if you can no longer keep your whole body together, you could probably blow something out,
Yep.
right? If
Yep.
you can't keep yourself together and you're just going to the point where you're about to like puke your brains out, and now your form starts to get out of the way, and you can no longer kind of control and keep yourself together. Maybe it's probably not smart to go to absolute zero RIR on something like that.
Well, and once you get to a certain level of strength, what happens is you figure out over time, because like you said in science, you mess around and find out.
Yeah.
You end up figuring out, hey, when I take these things to failure, it's like I just don't necessarily have as much to give to the other stuff that I'm trying
No,
to do.
exactly, yes.
And so today I was doing a workout and my live was on, and the person said, "You didn't go to failure on that set." I'm like, "No." They're like, "Why didn't you go to failure?" I said, "Because I have like 8 more sets to do in the workout." It's like if I went to failure on that, every set subsequently was going to suffer because I decided to test my ego and that I needed to grind for that last thing. Just doesn't make sense at that point.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times when you see people that are in the gym and that have been in the gym for a long time, they've figured out some of those things about their own physique, whether they can go to failure at times, whether they need to leave RIR at times. And I saw a bell curve the other day that was kind of funny. What it was a person who was, so you know how they do the dumb person and the smart person and the middle person?
Yeah.
And the dumb person was like, oh, I just go into the gym and like feel it out and just go from there. And then it was the person in the middle who was like, oh yeah, I leave exactly this amount of RIR at this time doing this. And then there was a smart person who was like, you know what, I go in and I feel it out and I see what I need to do, right? And I feel like that's a camp that you fall into where
Yes.
it's like, just because somebody comes onto your platform and tells you, hey, you're doing this wrong, doesn't mean you're going to start questioning your entire life.
No, yeah. Yeah, and when you start to question yourself, this is where the overthinking starts to happen. You think, maybe I'm doing something like, and then you'll start to look at all these other details. I'm not saying don't think. Yes, you need to put like a thought process with what you're doing, but it becomes like this one little thing, and just, you know how there's a little flame, and you put a little flame into the forest, and it just creates a whole wildfire of overthinking every single small little thing.
Yep.
That now you're starting to, you're frozen. You're frozen in place.
Yep.
And you don't know what to do anymore.
Yep. And throughout all of this, it's funny because like I'm talking to you as the meathead, but the thing is, we've already talked about multiple concepts: stable lifts, progressive overload, RIR. Like there's this idea that training has to be incredibly complicated all the time in order for you to continue to progress, and that just doesn't seem to be the case.
No, it's not. It's not. And like I said, just yes, put thought process into what you're doing, but also see how you're doing over time. People constantly question, like, is this right? Can I do this? Can I do this? Well, try it out. If it sounds decent,
The "can I do this" is always the one that I laugh
am I,
about
am
the
I allowed
most.
to do this?
Yeah.
Try it out. Does it sound decent? I'd say if it sounds decent, then try it out. Then give it a shot.
Absolutely.
It's worth giving it a shot. Now, if it's like something absurd, like an 8-hour arm workout from Rich Piana, come on.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Come on. But if it's something like, what if I do like maybe one hard working set on a hard compound movement and I do two hard working sets on more of the isolations? Can I grow from that?
Yeah.
You could see how you do.
Well, I always find it funny when people put forward a theory to me that they've looked into. They're like, oh, well, if you do this, then that will be the best. I'm like, okay, I've done that before, and it has objectively not been the best. So what do we do at this point? It's like, oh, well, then you're just wrong. And it doesn't make any sense because you have to take the biofeedback from yourself. And so when people tell me, oh, you can't recover from X, I'm like, I've done X in the past, and I recovered and continued to grow. So you just look dumb at that point. Whenever I see somebody who has not necessarily made the progress themselves go comment on a person who has made the progress and say, oh, well, you're dumb for doing this, it's a concept that doesn't make sense to me because it's like, yes, you could argue that maybe something could be slightly tweaked from time to time, but that's not going to replace the 12 years of work that that person has put in.
Yes.
And no, and I see that through and through with your platform. See people, they'll tag me in your videos
Yeah.
and get me to try and destroy you on X topic, and I just don't get it. I think there's it's a compensation mechanism where somebody who hasn't necessarily made the results physically for themselves has to then flex this because they don't necessarily have the outwards proof of what they're talking about.
Yes.
So, anyways, getting away from that for a little bit, Mark, I want to know from you. This is a conversation that I've had with many clients before, and they're always averse to it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I take a look at your physique, and when I see your physique, I see a physique that would do very, very well in men's physique. You got the broad shoulders, you got the great chest, great lats, like everything comes together well.
Yeah.
Would you consider doing men's physique, or are you like, no, that's not the category, I need to show the legs?
I wouldn't mind doing that, but I think because I have health phases when we're talking about the enhancement sort of things. The thing is, like, when I also introduce enhancements, I'll grow at the same time in a deficit, and there's pounds that come on. So certain things change, but I wouldn't mind keeping it at the back of my head as well.
Oh, interesting. See, I thought that you would be nope. I work my legs hard. I'm going to show off my legs. I would never consider putting on the board shorts.
No, I got to be open-minded here.
Okay.
I would think about it as well for sure.
Interesting. Well, now going on to more of a bodybuilding style discussion.
Yes.
What are your future plans in terms of competing? Like, obviously, you've stepped on stage, you looked phenomenal, but what is the end goal for you in terms of competing?
Getting a pro card, and then moving on after that. I don't want to think about becoming an Olympian and really taking it to the furthest next level. There's just certain milestones in my life that would be nice, right? Getting into a military background, earning something like that, and then earning a pro card would be nice. But after that, I'd want to see how physically far I can push myself from a physical fitness human, from being peak human. It sounds corny.
Peak human.
Trying to be Batman.
Batman, yeah.
But trying to be Batman, it would be nice. Like, getting a pro card, it's great. Like, hey, I got this off of my checklist in life. But being in love with fitness in general, because being muscular wasn't something that I fell in love with in the first place. It was the thought of pushing your limits. Going back to when I was 15 years old, I said, I love feeling like pushing my I just love progressively becoming better. Like it just feels empowering. Thinking like, what if I can be strong, look muscular, and run really fast, and do these burpees, and do all these things, and be that action hero, that sort of action hero. It's not, like I said, it sounds corny, but it's exciting to think about.
Okay. So what would you say? All right, we're going in a completely different direction than what I was thinking. But what would you say are kind of those markers that you'd like to eventually hit?
I know a 4-minute mile is obviously absurd.
Very absurd.
It's very absurd, but what if you could be muscular, still bench over 4 plates, and run really fast, and do something like, I don't know, 100 burpees in 4 minutes, or something like that, and just being agile, being able to, I don't know, climb over obstacles, and I guess go back to my military background and do certain things, like, I don't know. Like, I'm just talking out of my
no.
I'm just talking out here.
curious.
But imagine if you could lift like a lot. If you could, I don't know, have somebody that's super heavy on your back, run really fast to the other side, and then drop it down, and then start shooting something while you're winded as hell, right? And then see if you have enough wind capacity to shoot the target and hit the target from a far off distance. Doesn't that sound exciting to you?
So in other words, you're going to become a top level assassin.
No, I don't think I want to do that, but be qualified, I guess. But it sounds good to be just physically see how far you can push yourself.
Yeah.
It's just it sounds great. You know, like one of those I don't know, I guess a Reebok commercial or something like that, and you have like a log on your shoulder, and you're running really fast and you're lifting really heavy. It sounds super empowering. And I think the thing with the bodybuilding thing is you cosmetically look great, because a person who is fully prepped deep in there, like, you're not feeling good. We just had Fonzo here.
Yeah.
You saw he was like, I saw him on the pod. He was like, all right. I was like, I'm eating like. Do you really feel good like that? You don't.
Yep.
You look great. He looks amazing, by the way. He obviously put in the work. But he's like, I saw him at the gym, and I was like, and he was like, yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
Next lift. Yeah, next lift. Is that fitness? Can we agree here that's not exactly fitness?
Right.
Because with fitness, you can absolutely be very lean.
Yeah.
I'd say like 9 to 12 is great. That's definitely something that can be done.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
If you can be strong at the same time and be very fast, wouldn't you want to feed yourself as much as possible so you could see how high can you jump? How much can you lift? Because bodybuilding is kind of like the opposite, right? You're literally depleting yourself to see how sharp you can be.
Well, I always tell people when they ask me, they're like, oh, so you're saying that I need to do? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, if your goal is to be a fitter, healthier individual, then bodybuilding is not the route to go, right? Sure, there can be aspects of bodybuilding,
Yes.
like getting yourself stronger, building some muscle, but in terms of the actual competition aspect, no. That's 100% not about health.
It's opposite. You're putting yourself into the weakest state possible.
Yep.
And from a fitness perspective, when you really want to be like, I want to be strong, I want to be fast, like as we were talking about that song, Holding Out for a Hero, because I would watch a little trailer song, and then you'd see these action heroes just with their machine guns, like biceps and everything else popping out, and then running really fast, and they're holding the woman that they saved.
Yep.
You're not doing that when you're a depleted mess.
Right.
Right? You'll get blown away by the wind.
Absolutely. No, I remember there was it was random. About 5 years after I was done with anything athletic,
Yeah.
there was a soccer team in town, and I was like, you know what, like I'll go try out just for fun. And it was like going into that tryout, I had been cutting for a little while. I immediately, what did I do? I went and I got carbs, and I loaded up on more calories than what I was doing while I was doing that. And it was like, and I remember having a specific mindset thing at that moment where I was like, you know what? When I need to be at my best, I do the exact opposite of what I'm doing right now.
Yes.
To look my best on social media.
Yes, because you want to physically push yourself. And let's speak from a normal sports standpoint. Outside of bodybuilding, who's actually like super ripped? Do you see Ironman athletes like super ripped out of their mind? Do you see boxers like super ripped? They have some body fat on them, right?
Absolutely.
They're in great shape, but they're not ripped out of their mind.
See, you'll ruffle some feathers there by saying like boxers and stuff aren't ripped, because we obviously have different standards when it comes to ripped.
Yes, when it comes to compared to bodybuilders,
Exactly.
they're fat, but none of them are actually like stage condition,
Yep.
comical and got striations and veins everywhere, because body fat isn't a bad thing.
No, not
right?
at all.
It provides you energy. It's something that's normally needed. It's just when we're talking about obesity here, it's just they're completely off the rails.
Yeah.
But from an athletic standpoint, I don't know anybody else that is just super diced, super ripped.
Yeah.
The top MMA fighters and everything else. Do you see, or other martial arts fighters, you don't see them like ridiculously ripped.
Or if you find one, they're the anomaly.
Exactly.
It's not
Yep.
like if it was something that was advantageous for your overall health, they would all be doing it because they are trying to be the best at what it is they're doing.
Yes.
They're even for things like boxers and wrestlers, where literally making a lower weight category is the way to go if you want to be the best at your sport. Even they will not be bodybuilder shredded by the time they get there, which shows you that that is how important having a little bit of body fat is.
Yes, because it's all about energy, right? And that's one of the big things that body fat does. It provides you the necessary energy.
Yep.
And from an athletic performance standpoint, being ripped is just for cosmetic purposes. Being super duper ripped is completely cosmetic.
100%. There's actually, I want to ask you your opinion on this, because this is something that I've wrestled with, because there's a guy, I'm not going to name his name because I don't want to like make people upset or anything.
Yeah.
But he actually argued that there's nothing about being like 4 or 5% body fat that keeps you from being your healthiest. He said you can be 4 to 5% body fat. All you have to do is stay there long enough that your body just gets used to it, and that you can be your healthiest. That's something for me that as somebody who has gotten to lean states and tried to maintain lean states for a very long time, I don't understand how you can come to that conclusion unless your genetics are just out of this world for it.
Yeah, no, this is where the data comes in, right? How many people can do that? Like nobody? Maybe you were talking about anomalies. Maybe a certain person, but for the majority, probably not. And again, for a person to determine if that's something that can be done, you're gonna have to mess around and find out.
Right.
Right. If you get down to 4% and you genuinely feel great, then I guess it's working out for you, is it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
That's the thing. The only way you're gonna know if you're that type of person is if you've tried.
If you get to that point and see if you're performing very well and you're able to do normal day-to-day tasks and not hate your life, then I guess it's working out for you. But for most, it isn't. Tristan Lee,
Right.
He was forcing himself to get to that point, and he would talk about how he was lacking sleep and all of these things. Well, clearly it wasn't working, was it? Greg Doucette, I guess I remember like I would watch his videos. He'd say he'd get to 4%, and he said it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. He'd have to maintain that for 4 weeks to get to the next show, and it was a nightmare. So when somebody is just making a statement, maybe he's talking about himself. Great on you, but for most people, no.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's how I feel about it. But it was one of those things where I just wanted to get somebody else, because obviously you can theorize all you want, but not everybody has gotten themselves to that point in terms of actual shreds. So talking with somebody who's been there before, I wanted to get your perspective on that. Speaking of diet in general, what does a diet look like for you when you're not specifically trying to get your leanest for a bodybuilding show?
There's some days where, for example, if I wanted to do a little bit more burpees, that sort of thing, and do a little bit
So you
more
have
of the fitness.
a bit of an adaptive diet.
Yes, that sort of thing. So those days will have a little bit of higher calories. It's going to be a little bit more carb focused because carbs is energy, right? But if I'm just lifting weights for that day, then I'm not going to have as many carbs because it's not needed. And it's just being balanced with what you're doing, because again, you don't want to be putting on unnecessary amounts of fat, but you want to be fueling yourself enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, enough. That's where people kind of go completely off the rails, and they'll be like, "You have to bulk." No. You have to eat. You have to feed yourself enough. I'm not saying like eat like a complete bird, but enough at the point where you're getting a little bit better in your performance, and at the same time where you're not getting overly fat. So there's some days where I'll eat a little less. Some days where I'll eat a little bit more. For example, I'm not getting. Unfortunately, no excuses here, but I'm not getting as many steps today. So guess what I'm doing? Not eating as much.
Yeah.
Because my activity levels are lower. So it's exactly one of those things. Now, if I know I'm walking a lot of steps, then I can eat a little bit more.
I'm curious as to somebody who's been on both ends of the spectrum, both the natural and enhanced.
Yes.
Did you find that your overall intake had to increase significantly when you made the switch over?
Yes. Because naturally, when you're heavier, right, your BMR is going to be different. And as you gain muscle at the same time, naturally you'd be burning more calories. So compared to when you're natural and when you're lighter, a lot lighter, you're going to be fidgeting less, right?
Sure.
You're non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You're naturally burning less calories as compared to when you're heavier. And if you find yourself moving a little bit more, then yes, you're gonna need a little bit more. So the same thing with Ronnie Coleman. You see how he wasn't getting fat? He was getting shredded, eating 5,000 calories. That's just how his body was working out. And if you were to take Ronnie Coleman when he was I don't know 180 pounds, way back when, probably when he was like 2 years old, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
he probably
Genetic phenom.
he wouldn't be eating 5,000 calories. He would get fat. But it's just as his body became bigger, naturally he would need more calories. That's why we would see all these super mass monsters, right? They'd be eating like what? Oh, like I'm dying. I'm eating 3,500 calories. You see those videos as well. They're like 260 pounds lean, and they're like, oh, like I can't get, like I'm getting through this prep. I'm struggling. And like, how many calories are you eating? 3,500.
Yeah.
And then while we have somebody like Fonzo, right? Different body weights there.
Sure.
You know, he's eating significantly less, and that's what he needs to get shredded. Compared to somebody who's 260 pounds, 3,500 calories would be Fonzo's 1,800,
Right.
give or take.
Are you somebody who stays? Because like I'm always curious whenever I run into people in different physical states. Because the majority of natural guys, I know they like to inflate how much they say their calories are. So
Yeah.
I get people all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, I eat 3,500 a day and I stay lean." Blah blah blah. And most of the time, that's not true. But for somebody in your situation, would you be at a 3,500, 4,000 calorie amount, or is it something that's not quite as high as people would think?
Some days are 4,000.
Okay.
Some days, but some days are also 2,300.
Okay. So you have a ton of variance.
So it really depends. Like if I'm like I said, if I'm doing something stupid like a terrible circuit, and I'm doing like I don't know 400 burpees, something like that, combined with other things, and then I lifted weights earlier on in the day, and I did a significant amount of walking, it'd be something like 4,000 on that day.
Okay.
But if I'm specifically just lifting weights and I'm doing something like 15,000 steps, it'll be like 2,300. So if you look at the balance at the end of the week, right? If we put everything at the end of the week, what would it average out to? Possibly what, 3,200, give or
Okay.
take, and that's a reasonable amount, I would say, because average American eats what, 3,600?
It's yeah. I
At
think I saw
least.
something recently that had them in the mid 3,000s.
At least, and they don't move. That's the thing. So when people don't realize, oh, you're 3,600 calories is a lot, and it's not a lot compared to what you all eat.
Right. Well, people often minus, or I shouldn't say minus, but don't think about a lot of the calories that add up throughout the day.
Yes.
The little snacks that they do. Oh, yeah, I had some drinks on the weekend. And then all of a sudden, what they think they were eating in terms of food, which was somewhere around 2,000, 2,500, snacks, alcohol, all of that is what
It
inflates
combines
that
everything
number.
together. Yep. So I would say 3,200 at the end of the week for me is something that's reasonable.
All right. And part of the reason I wanted to pin that down with you is because of the fact that I get so many people who are like, oh, well, I need to eat more to get bigger. And so what they do is they force feed. Like I legitimately on a consistent basis get kids, 4,000 calories a day. And I'm just like, it's just unnecessary
Yeah.
for the majority of you. So having somebody in your situation who's a relatively big guy say, you know what, low 3,000s is actually pretty reasonable for you, not in a cutting phase, is going to help to tamper a lot of people's expectations when it comes to, oh yeah, I'm gonna be big, so I need to be consuming 5,000 a day.
It's enough. You need to think enough here. And again, we don't. It's situation dependent. For some people, it could be damn well like 5,000 calories every single day, depending on who are we speaking about here,
Yep.
right? If we're talking about Eddie Hall, 5,000 calories would shrink the guy into nothingness.
Sure.
Right? He'd realistically, what is he eating? 8,000, something like that.
Yeah, I think he was even getting higher than that. At
Higher than
times.
that, but that's relative to him. 5,000 calories would make him feel like dying.
Yeah.
So again, it's really dependent on person to person. 5,000 calories would make me fat. But 5,000 calories would make a person just kind of keep their weight the same. If a person's a blue collar worker and he's just hammering around all day, and his knee is just constantly moving around and he's just completely slayed, then yes, that would probably make sense for him. But it's just person dependent. You have to eat enough, and enough is something that you're going to have to figure out yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's because people will consistently ask me. They'll say, okay, when it comes to this is my height, this is my weight, is this the amount of calories that I should be eating? I say, don't know.
Maybe.
I said, give it a go.
If it's
Give it
reasonable,
a go, get some data and figure it out from there.
If it's reasonable, say for example, if you're 170 pounds, you're pretty active, and you're trying to build muscle, right? 3,000, it sounds reasonable. It sounds reasonable. Just see how it goes, right? Give it a span of 2-3 weeks, and how's the data looking back at
Yep.
you, right? Or if you're getting progressively stronger, and you see, man, like I'm not getting fat, but I see my performance going pretty well. I'm gaining weight slowly, but I see myself still staying pretty tight. Guess what? I guess those 3,000 calories are working pretty damn well for you, isn't it?
Yep. At this point in your career, because you mentioned about like weight going up and stuff, are you a person who tends to kind of get to a weight and stay there for a while, or are you somebody who consistently looks to gain at certain rates?
So realistically, I get smaller and bigger and smaller and bigger. Again, it depends.
Fluctuates through.
It depends on the situation. Right now, I'm smaller.
Okay. Are you in a health phase right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I'm smaller, but there's times where even during a prep, when you introduce certain things that I won't disclose, then I'll gain weight.
What's your what's your overall when you do your enhancements?
Yes.
What's your overall timeline? Are you typically a 16-week on, 16-week off? How do you go about it?
So it'd be something. It would be around the 16 to 20 mark, but it starts off small, and then as time goes by, it progressively increases, and then after that, if there's no events going on, health phase.
Gotcha.
Health phase, yeah.
And do you coach yourself entirely through that?
I have now. I'll have a second set of eyes going through this, but I do make sure that I want to take the minimal effective doses at the same time, because I don't want to. Realistically, I don't want to go completely off the rails and completely just mess myself up, and that's not something that I want to do myself. But as time goes by, especially I just see how my body goes, and I see how my blood work reflects as well.
And honest, I wish there were more people that had a mentality like you when it comes to this
Yes,
stuff.
minimal effective dose. If you see yourself, going in a proper direction, you see results happening, and you don't see any sides. Because I've never had any there's no gynecomastia or anything else like that, or bad acne. So I say, if I'm going in a good direction and I'm feeling pretty good, I'm not gonna go anymore, because in my heart, sure, I want to do all these things. I want to add all these things, but is it really worth it?
Right.
If you're moving in a pretty good direction and you're still feeling great.
And that's one of the things that I think is so cool is you've got a larger term perspective on this.
Yes.
And that's why I've never understood the people that will push gear like Olympia athletes if they don't expect to one day be an Olympia athlete. That's never made sense to me. Like if that is your dream, you are going to be on the Olympia stage one day, you have the genetics for it, then you have no choice. That's the lifestyle you have to live. But for you, who's like, you know what? I could probably do this pro card without taking things to the extreme.
Yes.
That's where the majority of people who do decide to take enhancements should be, in my opinion.
Yes. And I think that the great thing about being in classic is, there's a weight cap. Yep. So sure, if you were to blast yourself into oblivion, and then you get super big, now what?
Yeah.
So I think with classic,
weight caps might actually be keeping people healthier.
Because have you heard of a classic guy die?
Not yet. Well, I guess it hasn't. The classic category hasn't been around for as long.
But since then, it's always been the open guys, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I think because I like I said, I gain weight when certain things get introduced. I'm like, okay, there's no really need to be taking yourself into such high levels.
Well, I remember I just saw a study recently where they did a retrospective study where they were taking a look at mortality per 1,000, and they took a look at amateur versus professional bodybuilders, and the amount, I don't want to misquote it, so I don't want to give an exact number, but it was an insane amount more when it comes to the professional bodybuilders versus the amateur. And I think what happens a lot of times is people don't realize that even at the amateur level, a lot of people are taking gear. But what's the major difference between the pros and the amateurs is the amount.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things where a lot of people would, I think they would take a look at that and they'd say, oh, yeah, well, that's just because the amateurs aren't using gear at all and the pros are using gear. But a lot of times amateur bodybuilders use gear. They just don't take it to the same extremes as the people who want to make it to that top level. So no, I wish there was more people that had your perspective. It's actually one of the reasons for me that I've stayed natural as long as I have, is because I know for me, my personal tendencies tend to be pretty extreme. If I get really into something or interested in something, I tend to go like all in. And so I've always said to people, if you have that sort of personality, you probably don't want to test yourself in that regard.
No.
It's definitely something where you might not realize you have an issue until that issue has already presented itself. So, no, it's I'm not gonna ask you your exact amounts by any means, but I think people would be surprised to hear, especially people like Jordan Oakley, who has.
Oh no.
So there's a person who has, let's just say he spends a lot of his time on his platform accusing people who say they're natural of being enhanced, accusing people who are enhanced of taking less than what they say they are. But let me guess, has he probably put you at like 3-4 grams?
He said something like that when I had like a natural throwback, and you see like because I had like veins and everything else, so I was also 165 pounds.
Yeah.
And I would see like the comment sections, they'd be like, he's on grams. No.
One of the most interesting things that I will show people is whenever they say, "Oh, so and so must be enhanced," and I already know their height and their weight. I say, "Okay, look at this person next to this enhanced guy."
Yeah.
And often what happens is it doesn't translate through a screen. So when people see lean, shredded, veins, muscles, it's like, okay, well, that's what we associate with steroid users. And therefore, that person who has good muscle, good vascularity, they must be on gear. Not realizing that when you see it, the enhanced person in person versus the natural who's built some muscle, vast differences in size.
Yeah, no. And they're really limiting themselves. And you if we break it down, so you're telling me having muscle and being lean is now enhanced.
Yeah.
Because for you to have veins, so how does that happen? You have muscle, you be lean. So you're telling me getting yourself into a calorie deficit and staying in the gym and getting yourself stronger, and you putting on muscle, and now you dieting yourself to lean levels is now enhanced. Oh, you're enhanced. No.
Yeah, people just don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, and they're just talking completely out of their butt. I would say another word, right?
Hey, you've been good. You've been good on this pod.
They'd be just completely out of their butt. I mean, like, and you'd look at the people commenting, dude, how long have you been in the gym for? Like nothing. You haven't put yourself through any sort of consistent diet and training, and now you're just saying this when you don't even know. Because being lean and muscular can be done, I'd say, by pretty much everybody. You need to just put in the work, and it's as corny as it sounds, that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Put in the consistent work, and if you know how to diet yourself down to pretty lean levels, I'm not even saying get completely diced out of your mind. Oh, how many people are saying Fonzo was enhanced now?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what? You know, what was he doing?
Fonzo at 5'10", 155 pounds.
Oh, he's enhanced. Why? Because he has veins and he has because he's got definition. You mean he showed up to the gym consistently and he dieted himself down?
Yep.
He ate a lot of protein?
Yep.
You see, it's people. The people who are commenting these things are just impatient. They're all impatient or blank profile or something like that.
It's always you always can tell how it works once you've actually taken yourself to the level of leanness where people start accusing you.
Yeah.
Because you see the process. You're like, okay, so I'll give you an example with myself. The first time I shredded myself down, I was 185 pounds at the start. And by the time I got shredded, I was in the 150s. And I'd never had a gear accusation before in my life. I got down into the 150s, and people were like, dude, you're so much bigger than you were before. You must have taken something. And I looked at it, and I'm like, the data's right here. I'm 30 pounds less than what I was previously. But it's so hard for people to see what's actually happening through the screen. That was my light bulb moment. I was obviously a lot younger than I am now, but that was my light bulb moment where I was like, okay, all of these people that I had assumed up to this point must be enhanced. It's like until I start actually looking into the data of what their actual size is, it's nearly impossible to tell.
Yeah. And, and you could look dry naturally.
Exactly.
Do all these things naturally. It's just a matter of, I think people don't understand things like water manipulation. Right?
Not at all.
Because if you could absolutely, because how do you make yourself look dry, right? You you be fat free first, right?
Yep.
We're like visually no fat, and if you understand the processes of how to have no subcutaneous water,
Yep.
and have all the water inside of the muscle.
No, but that grainy hard look, that can only come from PEDs.
No. You see, that's them being ignorant and not wanting to
Yeah.
understand. And I guess we were talking a little bit more of the technical terms of what you needed to do. If you know how to do those things, you have years of experience in the gym constantly. You have the muscle built, and you diet yourself down, and you do yourself a little bit of a peak week sort of thing. Get yourself a nasty, nice little pump. Everything's popping. Oh, now you're looking grainy.
Yep.
That's exactly how you do it.
Right. I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking through a little bit of the numbers, what is the size difference between you when you were at your peak natural versus when you're like peak enhanced?
Okay, so peak natural, I was you saw those like little photos. I was 172. I was,
Okay.
and I would say what I'm kind of blessed with is insertions and everything else. And then after that, it was 218.
Jeez. I talked about this with somebody earlier
Yeah.
where I said a lot of times because the person has the same insertions, the same overall shape, they'll be like, oh, well, they didn't grow that much. And I'm like, if you saw that physique standing next to the other physique, you'd realize that it just dwarfs it.
Yes.
And that's how you realize that so many things aren't translating through the camera. It was actually Afonso I was talking to about it, where he has a picture from when he was 4 months into the gym. And he has like nice insertions,
He does, yeah.
looking good. So when he was 4 months into the gym, he looked good already, right? And then he showed up, I remember him showing a picture where he was 4 months in versus what he is now, which is I think 4 or 5 years in. And people say, oh, he didn't grow at all. It's like, he looked very similar through the camera, but he was an additional 25 pounds
Yes.
in the one on the right. I'm like, you don't realize those differences until you see it in person or standing next to each other. So,
And that's another thing where people will call you like a fake natty. If your insertions are great, you could look better. You could look bigger or better than the person who is bigger, but their insertions aren't exactly good. For example, if you have very peaky biceps, and we have another guy that has square biceps,
yep.
a lot of more people will probably say that the person who has very peaky biceps, oh, he's
Absolutely.
enhanced, and he combine the fact that that guy with the peaky biceps who's smaller and very lean, oh, he's on gear.
You see a guy who has genetically good arms, and that person on social media, they're not going to last if they say they're natural.
No, and the insertions are a big part here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know Derek Lunsford's clearly in Olympia, but if we have somebody that's wide waisted, for example, or if compared to somebody who has a smaller waist, who's going to look, I guess, more aesthetically pleasing on stage,
Right.
when doing like a front double bicep, something like that. Well, the guy with a small waist is going to look bigger, but the guy who has a wider waist but has more muscle, there's going to be a difference in aesthetics here from a bodybuilding standpoint.
Absolutely.
It really changes the look here and changes the perspective of things. Because a person can be very light. What was it? Flex. You know who Francis Benfato is? Or Lee
I'm not sure if I'm familiar
Labrada.
with that. Yeah.
The guy was 176 pounds. But how is he beating guys who were like 250?
Yep.
Something's going on there. You saw how he was perfectly symmetrical and the insertions and everything else. So this is where size in bodybuilding isn't the biggest thing here.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be there to some level, but at the end of the day, a person who looks a certain way,
Yes.
as long as it's not such a big gap that they can't cross it over, bodybuilding is an aesthetic sport. So sometimes you're going to have people that have it and people that don't.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that they can kind of force their way in. So, and that's where we come to that conversation before where I talked about how some people will blast as if they're going to be an Olympia contender when they're never going to be. And I think that's one of the things that you have to sit down, and if you're ever considering the enhanced route, you have to do an honest look at your physique and maybe even get somebody else to comment on it so that way you can be as objective as possible. No, I think it's one of those things where if you're ever considering going the enhanced route, you have to consider, am I doing this in order to be as big as possible, or am I doing this out of some need that's not being fulfilled somewhere else? And if you're not planning on someday being a top level bodybuilder, you have to think really, really hard about why it is you're doing what you're doing. So, and I really appreciate, it's one of those things where there's a lot of people that will just openly say exactly what they're doing, and you know that that influences a lot of kids to then
Yeah.
do things that they shouldn't do. And I respect the fact that you're very tight to the chest with it. You're like, I'm not going to say what I'm doing, just know I'm enhanced. And I think that that's a route that would help a lot of people, because the minute and this is part of the reason why I've never actually gone the enhanced route. People will ask me why, and I say, if I were to go enhanced, I know within the next week that there would be at least a few hundred, if not a few thousand kids who also decide to hop on who aren't ready to have that conversation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're easily influenced. For
Very.
example, as easy as like, I don't know, like I said, Keenan now doing a lat pull down. Now the guys are blowing their minds. People will see a science-based lifter doing a certain exercise, and how many kids will hop on doing that thing?
Yep.
So they're very easily influenced that if they see, gear, now they're going to try to copy that as well. And they're just, certain things probably don't need to be talked about fully in public, because doing an exercise change is not going to physically hurt them.
I remember, and this will always stick out in my brain. There was a kid that came up to me, and they said, "Hey, I follow all your stuff. I've been doing all this, and it all sounds good. All sounds good." And then what they said next was something that made me completely rethink the way I do my content. They said, "I've been doing X," and they're like, "Because I saw you do it like 3 years ago." And I thought back to it, and I was like, "Oh shoot, that video was actually a joke. I wasn't being serious. It was satirical, and I said that I was doing something." And they had taken, and for the last 3 years, had done it religiously because of the fact that they saw some satirical video from me doing it.
Yeah.
And it made me completely rethink. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to say something, I have to make sure that I can put my name behind it. Otherwise, like, there's going to be things that are taken out of context, or people are going to copy it immediately. So it just makes a much heftier decision for the things that you put out there. And leading off of that, I would like to ask, and I know this is going to be very broad, so you can answer it however you'd like.
Yeah.
If there was something that you could teach people who are in their first year or two when it comes to their fitness journey, their health, what do you think you would want them to know?
I would say, if you're starting off, please don't do super isolation. Focus on super isolated maximalist movements, please. Right? You know what I mean? Do a normal lat pull down, please. You know what I mean? Like, I get the idea of trying to bias a specific, like, small part of a region, but please just do the normal exercises. Just focus on all those things when you're bigger and when there's visual, like, actual points. Like, man, I need to work on this specific part. But right now, when you have when you got nothing, a normal chest press will work. And I'm not even saying squat, barbell bench press, barbell squat, barbell deadlift. I'm talking about like a normal chest press machine.
Yeah.
And just press it the way it's intended to. Do a lat pull down. Do some sort of curl.
Yep.
Do some sort of hinge.
Yep.
Right? Just do normal stuff.
Yep.
And do a split that sounds cool to you. Does it have to be a 4-day split? You could do a 6-day split. Does it sound fun? Like, man, like, you know what? I'm going to do this split. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this 5-day
Mess around
split.
and find out a little bit.
Yes, I'm going to do this 5-day split. I'm going to do these normal exercises, and please don't get caught up with because I think when there's too much of an information overload out there, and we're talking about leverages, and they're talking about leverages, and where the resistance profile is best, that can damage a beginner.
Yeah.
They're gonna start to think, oh, man, my gym doesn't have these machines, but dumbbell presses are vaulted. Like, stop, don't. Shh.
You'll be okay.
Dumbbell presses will be okay.
Yep.
You'll be okay.
Yep.
If you do those exercises consistently and you do those basic movements consistently, it's gonna work. I promise you. And please don't get caught up with trying to find the best machine with the best leverage and resistance profile. Please don't get caught up into that.
Well, I remember there was this one topic.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember what the exact topic was, but it was one that became very popular in the science-based community, and people decided that they weren't going to do something because it wasn't good. And then what happened was, about a year later, their favorite creator, I can't remember who it was, but they said, oh no, like this is actually good. And then there was an immediate switch. I'm like, so you just spent an entire year
Yeah.
avoiding something
Yeah.
simply because somebody told you it wasn't good. You hadn't actually thought too hard about it yourself. And it was like, but because they said it wasn't good, you were so scared to actually do this, even though you'd been doing it up to this point, that now you've missed out on a year of progress that you could have been making on that movement.
Yes, because they need somebody else to wipe their butt for them. That's I'd use that other word, but they need validation. They need somebody to say, "Is this okay? Is this okay?" For example, we're gonna talk about not optimal movements here. For example, the incline hammer strength plate loaded press, right? If we want to be technical here, it's not really exactly the best because at the end range of the movement, there's a lot more triceps involved,
Sure.
right? Compared to something else that has a better resistance profile. If we're to take the prime chest press machine, right? You could adjust where where the tension is, right? It could be at the end range, it could be the mid range, and you have a lot more freedom to do that. But a big part of my upper chest, in which I have an upper chest, I think you can agree here.
You do.
The incline hammer strength machine, that's plate loaded, is something that works very great for me. Even though I understand it's not exactly the best movement,
Right.
but it's still
And-
going to work.
And that's, I think what happens is there becomes a very hefty move to say that not just is optimization for certain things better,
Yeah.
but that's it. And if you don't do that, then you won't get the progress.
Yeah, barbell rows.
Right.
I've
And
kept doing
that's-
that.
And that's a very frustrating one to me, where I take a look and I say, when you take a look at somebody who has objectively built a lot of muscle doing something, and you say, oh, well, if you do that, you won't build muscle, you just look dumb.
Yeah.
You just look dumb because that person has proven through what we could reasonably label the scientific method, observable, testable, repeatable.
Yes.
Right? They have proven that that actually does indeed grow muscle.
It does grow. And do you notice how everybody that has great results, both natural and enhanced, I would say, none of them are like, we could find something to nitpick that is not exactly perfect with what they're doing. We could easily find something. We could go all day.
Yep.
But what have they been doing consistently over time?
Right.
Progressively challenging themselves,
Yep.
aiming to become better.
I often get people tagging me in Olympian videos, and they'll be like, oh, well, they did this. I'm like, yeah, but they also did this. Oh, but they did this. Oh, but they also did this. It's like you can see the things that are doing very well. You can
Yeah.
see the things that are working very well. Just because they threw in a redundant movement doesn't mean that they're no longer going to grow.
Yeah, they think things need to be 100% super duper perfect. I'm going to admit there's a lot of things that I don't do that I could absolutely do that's better off. That's definitely better. But I'm just being consistent with doing that.
Right.
And it's just like, it's into this perspective here, right? If you like somebody, okay, if you have a dude that likes a woman, right? You know what this is the overthinker that I'm going to speak about here.
Okay.
So you like this woman, what are you going to think about the most optimal way of asking her out? So what are you going to do? You're just going to stare at her? Or are you going to
Right.
go up to her and talk to her? Okay? So how are you going to know? You're going to try to figure out, maybe I should use this pickup line, or maybe I should talk to her normally. Okay, so you're going to think about all these things rather than just going up to her in action and seeing how it works
Right. No, exactly.
and talk to her.
And I think it was John Meadows, may he rest in peace, said, I'm really glad I didn't wait around for the science to confirm what I already knew. And I think a lot of people could learn from that. And of course, we're both people who think about our training.
Yes.
Right? Like we're both people who go in and we try to be relatively intelligent about the way we go about things. But at the end of the day, we're not saying, okay, because X new study in 2025 came out, then therefore I am not going to do something that has, up to this point, built me a lot of muscle.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. It's honestly not even the way that science works. Science works off of, like we said before, observable, testable, repeatable, and people often forget about the third one, which is the repeatable aspect.
Yeah.
So when they see a brand new study about a topic, even if that study is on a topic that has been talked about ad nauseum by 10, 15 other papers, which have come to different conclusions, because this new paper said something, well, it has to be this way. And it doesn't make any sense because you need that repeatability in order to validate results. And we have, if we're being completely honest, repeatability of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people for certain things. And we don't necessarily need a study to confirm
No.
what we already know about some of
No,
these things.
like we know a lat pull down works great.
Yep.
What
Which is hilarious that you bring up a lat pull down, because that at one point in the science-based community was, oh, well, that's not actually lats. And everybody who had been working out for 10, 15 years was like, what are you talking about? Like, I built great lats doing lat pull downs. So you're telling me it's not lats, but I have results. So at this point, what do we do with that? Only for, I think it was 1 or 2 years after that initial thing they're like, actually, it is lats. It's like absolute disaster.
That's the analysis paralysis that I'm speaking about it, because it creates a whole poop storm. See, I'm trying to use another term.
It's good. It's good. The sailor mouth is not coming out. So you're doing well.
It's creating a whole poop storm of everybody just not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's why I constantly talk about like there'd be people commenting like you keep talking about analysis paralysis. You're anti-thinker. No, I'm not anti-thinker. I'm anti whatever's going on, because it's confusing an audience.
Right.
Why are we now saying a lat pull down is bad, or why are we now saying a dumbbell press is bad?
Yep.
It's just causing a lot of people to actually remain stagnant, because now their brains are fried.
Yep.
And they'll look at a machine, they'll think, I'm wasting my time here.
Yes.
Okay. I'm wasting my time if I do this machine. No, you're not.
Yep.
No, you're not, and it's causing people to remain stagnant. So I think when people are using all these terms, best leverages and everything else like that, it's confusing them, and it's doing more damage than good.
Yeah. And there are things that you can learn over time and implement into your training,
Yes.
little things, little techniques, little variables. But at the end of the day, can you put the muscle under solid tension over time?
Yeah.
Not time under tension. Somebody's going to take that out of
Yeah.
context. Over time, as in repeatedly, day in, day out, in order to keep progressing.
Yes, and people will get into the nitpicky things. Machine preacher curl or a barbell preacher curl. Just please just choose something.
Yep.
You're curling your arms,
Yep.
right?
Relatively stable, loadable. You're able to continue to progress it over time.
It's
You'll
if
be
your
good.
muscles are working, it's working. Or they'd be like barbell bench press or machine chest, please. Please, you know what I mean? I don't know. They're gonna work just fine. Stop it.
Yep. As long as there's not such a stability issue that you can't perform the movement with good amounts of loading,
Yeah.
you're gonna be all right.
Yeah, or if you're doing a Bosu ball with a dumbbell, okay, now I'm going to
Exactly.
disagree with that. But if it's a
Exactly.
machine chest press, if it's a prime machine chest press to was it pinata? I don't know how to
Panada.
Panada. I'm saying pinata.
Pinata.
Yeah, okay, a panada machine chest press to a prime, either or, man.
Yep.
Either or, it's gonna work, right? Do you like a milk chocolate from Hershey's, or do you like a milk chocolate from Cadbury?
Yeah.
Okay, I like Cadbury better, but that's besides the point.
Yep. And I've been guilty of it at times where I'll over hyperbolize like the differences between something. And it's been one of those things where over the years, the more I've seen it get extreme, the more careful I am with my language.
Yeah.
So what I might have at one point said, oh yeah, this is bad and this is good. Now I more often than not, assuming it's an actual reasonable conversation, say, oh, this is good. This might be slightly better.
Yes.
And it's unfortunately right now what you're only having is okay, this is either horrible or this is amazing.
Yep.
And
now,
there's a lot of area in between those two.
Yep. And now the people are thinking that they're going to be completely wasting their time if they're doing the less than ideal exercise. Most of the exercise, a lot of the exercises I do are not ideal. If I have to be technical here, but it's still going to work.
Dude, I watch like 90s, 80s videos of guys training, and it amps me up. Right? Like just because I might not necessarily be doing every single thing that person is doing, I'll still get pumped up watching them just putting in hard, heavy work over time.
Yep. And reality is they're very science based.
There's so many things that they were doing that were ahead of their time.
And they're doing it through action. Yep.
Right. And of course, some things you're going to say, okay, well, that's not necessarily needed. But there's a lot of smart concepts in there if you're actually paying attention.
And they're putting it through action. They're putting it through action. A lot of these dudes that are the overthinkers, they're just looking at the book. They're looking at it through theory.
Yep.
And they're constantly reevaluating, is this good?
Yeah.
Is this right? Is this right? And when you're not putting in action, no results will come.
Well, somebody said it to me this way, and it helped me to readjust my thinking because I was a person who was in the trenches and also in the literature,
Yes.
and I didn't really consider the fact that there would be people who aren't really in the trenches alongside of the literature, and that is something you're seeing more and more. But so me, I would use papers in order to see if there was maybe something slightly a little bit better than what I was doing, but I still understood the general concepts were going to work for certain things regardless. Where now what you have is you have people who haven't spent any time in the trenches, only looking at words on a paper and not being able to bring them together. And somebody said to me, they said, have you ever worked on a construction site or something like that? And the project manager comes along and says, no, you're supposed to do it like this. And every single worker there understands, no, that doesn't actually work. Like, it might look nice when you draw it out like that, but that's not actually going to work in the real world. And they just tell you, no, you have to do it. And then what ends up happening? They follow what the project manager says. They all knew intuitively that that wasn't going to work very well for them, and it ends up collapsing.
Yeah, and this is where experience does come in, and you have to see things on hand.
Yep.
How things go, and I guess people will, like the commenters will call me a dumb meathead. No, I'm applying real science, messing around and finding out and looking at the data.
Yep.
And seeing how things go, and it's just maybe we speak in different languages because I speak very offensive, and I guess people will emotionally react to that. And you can speak in your educated high school teacher like vibe, where you're a little bit more level headed when you speak, but we're more or less saying the same thing.
Yeah, no, and and unfortunately, what happens is when people have slight disagreements, when they should really only have slight disagreements and things, they take those slight disagreements and make it the entire conversation rather than a small portion of it.
Yes, yeah.
But hey, Marc, appreciate having you on.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you don't follow him already, Marc Gabriel Cruz, this guy will inspire you to lift a crap ton of weight and maybe become Batman.
Yeah, maybe.
But as always, love you guys, appreciate you guys. TNF and
Marc Cruz, Marc Gabe Cruz, that is me.
Marc Gabe Cruz out.